So sorry for the delay because we have some problems switching the streaming to the live session, but Tino and me are here to answer any question you may have.
Yeah. Any question about, the roadmap, any specific feature, anything you feel can be improved in OpenNebula?
So during the talk, I saw a comment about ARM64 architectures. So I will just comment a bit on those. Probably this will happen after 7.0. The status is not that bad. I mean, we have internal builds, and the thing that it's holding it back a little bit is the problems we have with Q&A, because the way we do the certification, we need proper support for nested virtualization, and we have some problems integrating that in our Q&A pipeline. So once that's clear out, we are ready to release that and support that for the enterprise customers. Also, I saw a mention about backups and Ceph, and yeah, that's certainly we try to improve the backups. 6.6 was like the basic first release of this backup system that is really complete, but it lacks of several features. In terms not to delay the release of the feature, we opted to leave some of the features we want to have in the backup out of 6.6, and one of those are Ceph and incremental backups. As you may know, incremental backups are implemented with the bitmap changes in Cookout 2, and that feature is lacking in Ceph, so we need to explore, or there are some alternative solutions, and we'll look into that for 7.0.
Okay. There's also some questions about Sandstone. Yeah. So the cloud view, right? Cloud view is a special view in current Sandstone, Sandstone that you all know. That it's intended for end users is a self-service point-and-click interface, giving like the minimum functionality to be able to manage virtual machines and services as well. Initially, we didn't plan for that because the user view and the new interface in FireEdge Sandstone using cards it's quite similar, but yeah, after the time we've been developing with the new FireEdge Sandstone, it became clear that there are lots of people using the cloud view for their end users. So we'll probably implement it, but probably not after 7.0. So that will be maybe the last portion of Sandstone that will be available in FireEdge Sandstone probably in OpenNebula 7.2. Yeah, I think we have to implement it. All right, so another question about Sandstone, right? So do we plan to support BNC across different OpenNebula zones? Right, yeah, this is something that is not currently supported in Sandstone because Sandstone server needs kind of direct access to the hypervisors to make this happen. So it's something that is not currently supported, but it's a feature that has been requested many times. So yeah, this is currently in the roadmap for FireEdge Sandstone. We'll need to build some sort of tunnels between different Sandstone or FireEdge servers to make this happen. I think it's even if it's not trivial, it's an interesting enough feature to make it available. So yeah, we'll implement that. Okay, so yeah, this is a recurrent question, right? Support for SAML. Actually, it does support SAML, not OpenNebula itself, but through Sandstone. You can put Sandstone behind the reverse proxy that understands SAML backend like Shibboleth. So the only thing that OpenNebula requires for this is to create users with the public driver. So there will be users that only are able to interact with OpenNebula through the Sandstone interface. They don't have access to the CLI or the API. But they can log into Sandstone because Sandstone can be configured in remote out mode. So only by receiving a special header, a remote user header with the username, and if that user has this public driver, OpenNebula will assume that it has been correctly authenticated in external authorization backend, such as Shibboleth. So yeah, in short, it actually OpenNebula does support SAML through this reverse proxy.
I think I can take that one. So yeah, during talk, Tino explained that one provision is going to see some big restructure. We want to improve the APIs. We want to improve all the functionality that the one provision module is actually implementing, because it's really getting some attraction from our customers. And one of the main requests that we are usually receiving for one provision is to being able to integrate that shield. So we are going to explore that one and add it to Amazon AWS and Equinix providers that are the current one that are supported. And let's see if we can include Azure for 7.0 or maybe at the later release. But Azure is also for sure in our radar.
Just a heads up that there's a live poll available to help us prioritize the functionality we're planning to add for future versions of OpenNebula. So we always, OpenNebula is a user-driven product, right? So we always prioritize the functionality we add to it according to the demand for these features. So that's huge help for us if you can help us prioritize this functionality. Just remember that you can ask anything related to OpenNebula. It doesn't have to be specific to the roadmap, but any existing functionality, that's fine. Okay, how do you see the future of edge intelligence? Well, it's a very broad question, but I'm gonna take it in under the context of using, artificial intelligence techniques to efficient and also 2 predictions for scheduling or orchestrating the workload right in the edge. So in that sense, in the context of OpenNebula, we have plans to extend our current scheduler. As you may know, it's matchmaking scheduler that does an initial placement. It doesn't really have functionality to do a reorganization of the workload after it's been deployed. So in that sense, we are extending it to be able to hook that to get recommendations for an external module that can implement different machine learning techniques to provide initial and also after placement to optimize different metrics like energy consumption or latency with respect to the end user. We are involved in several innovation projects to actually bring that functionality to OpenNebula. And yeah, it's an exciting feature because, well, this will create a multi-cloud platform where you can optimize different aspects of the workload placement, not only initially, but also you can make predictions, right, and act accordingly. Like, okay, it's possible that this new edge placement will have optimal energy consumption during this period of time. So this external scheduler or orchestrator can instruct OpenNebula to move the workload to optimize or maximize this energy consumption. So it's only a little aspect of edge intelligence, but I think it's going to have a huge impact for the OpenNebula deployments.
So I can comment on this one. It's about the improved logs, right? Yeah, the idea is that currently it's not really straightforward to gather information of what is happening in OpenNebula. So this is more of an horizontal task, right? So we want to improve the way we notify the users of any event that is happening in OpenNebula. And part of it, we want to better track these or trace these audit logs. So right now, every API request is labeled with the request ID, and we want to build on top of that, so you can get reports of what requests tracking these IDs related to which PMs or hosts or data stores or images has been performed by users, and when those actions were performed. This is a really big task. Let's see how much of it can we fit into 7.0, considering all that it's really a beefy release. So, but yeah, that's the overall plans for that. I don't know if you want to add something, Tino, about this one.
No, this is also a recurrent request, so we will honor it for 7.0. I think it's important for using OpenNebula in production environments, especially in those with strong security requirements. So something we have to work towards. Yeah. What are the best practices of configuring SSL? So I guess you can use SSL in different OpenNebula services. I can comment, I think probably the most relevant one is exposing Sandstone. Okay, so by default, Sandstone does not have an SSL capable web server, at least the current one, right? The one that has a Ruby backend. So in those cases, what we recommend is using, again, a reverse proxy, such as Apache web server, which you can follow any guide for best practices to create your own certificates and configure Apache to use them, right? So nothing really fancy here, just following standard best practices for SSL.
Yeah, and the same applies for the XML RPC. I mean, that can be also proxied through an SSL. Yeah. So OpenNebula for Debian 12. So Debian is one of the platforms that we certify and test actively OpenNebula on top of it. I think that Debian 12 just released this month. So our goal is to include that for the next minor release. That is going to be 6.8. So I'm expecting that 6.8 will include support for Debian 12, and we will deprecate the previous one, which is, I think, 10. Right now, I think we support 10 and 11, so probably we move to 11 and 12. And we try to align the releases of new distributions with the releases of an OpenNebula version. So 6.8 will be the first release where OpenNebula will be tested on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's like our commitment, right? Mm-hmm. So we support the 2 latest LTS for the platforms. We deprecate those that reached end of life. So 6.8 will probably support Debian 11 and 12.
Yeah. Also, I think if you're using OpenNebula, not installing OpenNebula with Debian 12, we already have the marketplace appliance for Debian 12. So for the VM guest, context packages are already tested on Debian 12, and you can find the VM appliance in our marketplace. SDNs. So yeah, there are a lot of changes around networking for the upcoming releases. I would say that the most important ones are related to these IPA features. So PCI pass-through, SRUV, that's I know rather for the short term, but we expect to see, we are excited to introduce some more changes in Open vSwitch. So right now you have to do several manual configurations in the Open vSwitch, especially if you are trying to use DPDK. And one of the ambitions we have for Serino is to automate all these steps. So the Open vSwitch drivers should be able to perform these DPDK configurations, some additional configurations to the Open vSwitch. And that's one of the next changes we want the SDN to happen. And as for 6.6, we do this live update of the characteristics of the or attributes of the network, virtual network interfaces for the virtual machines, which before that you need to detach and attach the NICs, and it's not really convenient. So those are the next things that we want to do to develop the or above the OpenNebula built-in SDN capabilities.
Okay, so will OpenNebula be looking to introduce a storage live migration capability? So I think we talk about that in the highlights. Currently, it is possible to do a storage live migration in OpenNebula, but only if you are using OpenNebula on top of VMware. So VMware exposes that functionality, and OpenNebula is already capable of orchestrating this, right? So you can live migrate a VM from one system data store into another, but only if you are using VMware. So this is a very interesting functionality to balance storage capability. So yeah, we will be looking into add this in 7.0 for KVM and other hypervisors, right? So this is I don't think it's going to be too easy to do, but it's totally worth it. So yeah, we'll be looking into that definitely.
Yeah. So about Kubernetes, I think that our short-term goals for Kubernetes is to improve the current Kubernetes appliance. So one key it's our main goal in the short terms, and we want to improve this integration with OpenNebula in terms of dedicated Sandstone interfaces, dedicated interfaces to provide some information about the Kubernetes cluster from the OpenNebula web UI. Also, we need to improve some of the resource sharing across OpenNebula or Kubernetes cluster running on top of OpenNebula, because some of them, if you are running like several clusters at once, sometimes the resources are not really easy to isolate. You have to do it by hand, and we want to help administrators to manage these scenarios. And also we want to improve the capabilities of the appliance itself. So the CNIs are our first area that we want to look into in terms of improving the support or easing the configuration of the Kubernetes appliances. Apart from that, yeah, I think micro Kubernetes cluster is also interesting, but as said, it's not in the short-term roadmap for now, I think. Yeah.
Will OpenNebula support Nixos? It's currently not in the roadmap, unfortunately. So I guess, I mean, that would be a nice addition, right, Ruben? I think you're even planning to use that.
Well, the things that operating systems that we support are those with commercial support. I mean, as you probably know, it's not just being able to compile and execute work in OpenNebula, but we want to verify and assure that the quality of the product itself is good in a given platform. So we are mostly, that's time consuming. I mean, because for each operating system, we verify like tens of scenarios for different storage, networking, multiple configurations. So this really escalate quickly.
Yeah.
So introducing new operating system is a big effort, not just in terms of getting the software ready on the platform, but in committing to continue supporting the platform for the upcoming years. As we want to streamline that experience, and as we want to really provide a good, as I say, quality for that, I think that we will keep the platforms that we support, and especially we support commercially, to the current reduced set for the short term and medium term. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, this is we are user driven, right? So I mean, if there's enough demand, so why not? But we will check the IPs. So I don't want any Nixos fan to submit 1,000 requests. Okay.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So yeah, Tino mentioned that, and but this is one of the things that the team is really excited about. I mean, we have like an internal pipeline that does all these things. I mean, the process of building images and publish them to the marketplace. And what we do basically is we grab the the official installations and we install the OpenNebula contextualization and do some hardening of the appliances, like removing root passwords, that kind of things, right? So we received several requests in the past about people wanted to access these tools, and we're going to publish this. Our plan is after the summer break, so people can prepare their appliances in the way in the same way we do. And if you're interested in whatever operating system that you cannot find in the marketplace, you can grab our toolchain and add the bits that are missing for your favorite operating system. In terms of the tools, we use Packer. Yes, there are some guest fish underneath, and there's some interaction with Cloud Init. But you will have a lot of more information, as I said, after the summer break, when we make this all this toolchain public.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's gonna be great for people building content for OpenNebula. Okay, it's kind of aligned, right, with the previous one. Yeah, we are indeed working on that. As I mentioned before, we are working on extensions to the scheduler to be able to hook with external recommendation mechanisms. So, so currently, yeah, OpenNebula scales to this number of VMs. The scheduling part, it's probably the one that it's currently a bottleneck. But definitely we have plans and we are working on that right now in different projects. Any plans to support confidential computing capabilities? Okay, if I understand this correctly, it's we have plans to support these trusted platform modules. Okay, so they can be exposed to virtual machines. That would be like the first step, right? But increasingly, there's requests to add functionality to OpenNebula to operate secure clouds, right? And it's especially with this one provision tool that allows you to run your workload from your on-prem hardware to different cloud providers. It's always a concern in certain sectors. Who's going to run this virtual machine? Who has access to it? So anything that improves the security or the trustness that you have, that no one can fiddle with running virtual machine on data center that you do not control. That's something that indeed we are going to work on, and well, some of them are already in the roadmap.
Yeah.
So that's the spirit of the question, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that we already answered that one.
Yeah. Answer is yes. No. Okay.
So this is kind of related to my previous answer. It's just in terms of the effort that it requires to support an hypervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because every single feature that OpenNebula introduces needs to be implemented across all the portfolio of hypervisors that we support. So it was a difficult decision back in the time, when we had to decide if we are going to continue to support Zen. And given that's an open source project and a big part of the team is really fan of Zen project, it was difficult, but the reality is that we want to, as I said, streamline the experience in OpenNebula, and it means in a lot of cases reduce the options that we offer to the users. So we try to pick the most popular ones and stick with that. I'm trying to improve on those. Lately, we introduced some other hypervisors that were more or less like exploring the interest of the people, like Firecracker or LXC. And maybe in the future, we will need to reevaluate what are we going to do with those hypervisors, because, as I said, it's kind of a contradiction. Spreading support across platforms, but streamlining the experience at all of them at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So that's the key, right? To streamline the experience. It's if we can focus on a reduced set of hypervisors, we can make the experience much better. That if we try to support any single hypervisor or networking or store technology that's out there. So we have to focus on those that have the most demand, right? So yeah. Will OpenNebula support multiple hypervisors in the same host?
Yeah.
Okay. Short answer to this, we already do, right? It's a bit, it's not straightforward and it's a bit awkward, but you can add same server any number of times in OpenNebula with different hypervisors.
Yeah, the problem is that it's the same thing. I mean, you will have some incoherent reports about the usage, memory, or CPU because the hypervisor is added twice, and doing a proper implementation of multiple hypervisors in the same host requires a lot of logic, and this was in our radar for some time, but it go down to in the backlog because of the same reasons. I mean, probably we want to reduce the number of hypervisors that we support, so it really doesn't make sense to support multiple of them at once on the same host. So probably this is not going to happen in really in the medium term. Yeah. I think we are over time, Tino, or maybe, yeah. So maybe we can close the session.
Yeah. I'd like to thank again our sponsors to make the conference happen. It's been great so far, and couldn't make it without you. So thanks, Limbit and Storpool. Also thank everyone in the community, our users, for their great feedback and help us shape OpenNebula. Thanks. Yeah, thanks to all the attendees for the nice questions. And you always have the forum, also the GitHub to keep suggestions coming. So,
we'll be around through the conference. You can direct message us with any question, and we'll be happy to help you. Thanks again for joining.
Bye-bye.